30 pieces of silver. Coins hitting a table, one by one. That was the price. Not a fortune, not a treasure. Under the law of Moses, 30 pieces of silver was the compensation you paid if your ox gored someone's slave, the price of a dead servant. That's what Judas Iscariot took to hand over the man he had followed for 3 years. And here's what almost nobody talks about. Days later, Judas threw the money back, hurled it across the temple floor, and walked out. A man who betrays his teacher for greed doesn't return the payment. So if it wasn't the money, what was it? By the end of this video, you'll hear a theory so unsettling that when an ancient text supporting it surfaced in 2006, it made headlines around the world. Stay with me. It changes how you read the entire story. Start with what we actually know, because it's less than you think. Judas Iscariot was one of the 12, hand-picked. He walked the same dusty roads, ate the same bread, watched the same miracles, and he wasn't a fringe member. John's Gospel tells us Judas held the money bag. He was the group's treasurer. You don't give the purse to the man you trust least. Even his name is a puzzle. Iscariot may mean man of Kerioth, a town in southern Judea. If that's right, Judas was possibly the only disciple who wasn't from Galilee, an outsider among northerners from the very start. Others hear something sharper in the name, an echo of the Sicarii, daggermen, radical nationalists who wanted Rome driven out by the sword. We can't prove that reading, but hold on to it because it feeds one of the theories coming up. 12 men at the table. One of them is about to end everything. Why? The oldest answer is the simplest one. He did it for the money. Matthew shows us Judas going to the chief priests himself and asking, "What will you give me if I deliver him to you?" He negotiates, he initiates, and John's Gospel adds a damning detail. Judas used to steal from the money bag. When a woman poured expensive perfume over Jesus' feet, worth a year's wages, Judas objected. He said the money should have gone to the poor. John says he didn't care about the poor. He wanted the coins passing through his hands. Case closed? Not quite. Because 30 pieces of silver is a strange fee for the crime of the century. Roughly 4 months' pay for a laborer. Judas skimmed the treasury for years. He could have stolen more than that without risking anything. And then there's the ending. Matthew records that when Judas saw Jesus condemned, he was seized with remorse, returned the silver, and said 7 words. "I have sinned. I have betrayed innocent blood." Greedy men don't give refunds. Something else was going on. And the Bible itself seems to agree, because 2 of the Gospels give a completely different explanation. One that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with something entering Judas. Luke writes it plainly. Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot. John repeats it at the Last Supper. The moment Judas takes the bread, Satan entered into him. For the Gospel writers, this wasn't a metaphor. The betrayal was a spiritual invasion, the climax of a war that had been building since the wilderness temptations. In this reading, Judas isn't the mastermind, he's the doorway. But that raises a question theologians have wrestled with for 2,000 years. Jesus predicted the betrayal. At the Last Supper, he announced, "One of you will betray me," and then identified Judas directly. He even told him, "What you are about to do quickly. Do quickly." Read that again. It almost sounds like an instruction. If the betrayal was prophesied, foreseen, even necessary for the crucifixion and everything Christians believe followed from it, then what was Judas? A villain? A pawn? Or something we don't have a word for? Hold that thought. It's exactly where that 2006 discovery comes in. First, the theory many historians find most human. Picture 1st century Judea. Roman boots in the streets, crushing taxes, and a population waiting for the Messiah, who most people expected to be a warrior king, a new David who would raise an army and burn Rome out of the Holy Land. Now picture Judas, possibly a southern nationalist, maybe with radical sympathies, watching Jesus enter Jerusalem on Palm Sunday. Crowds screaming, "Hosanna!" Palm branches, a symbol of Jewish victory. This is it. The revolution starts now. And then, Jesus talks about dying, about turning the other cheek, about a kingdom not of this world. In this theory, Judas didn't betray Jesus out of hatred. He did it out of shattered expectation, or worse, calculation. Some scholars suggest Judas was trying to force Jesus' hand, put him in front of the Sanhedrin, back him against the wall, and surely, he'll finally call down the fire and reveal his power. If that was the plan, it failed catastrophically. Jesus didn't fight, he let them take him, and Judas watched his gamble march quietly to a cross. Suddenly, his remorse and those returned coins make devastating sense. But in 2006, National Geographic unveiled a restored ancient manuscript that had survived 17 centuries in the Egyptian desert. Its title alone was enough to shock the world: the Gospel of Judas. Here's the payoff I promised you. The Gospel of Judas is a Gnostic text from around the 2nd century, not written by Judas and rejected by the early church. But its claim is breathtaking. In it, Jesus pulls Judas aside, away from the other disciples, and tells him, "You will exceed all of them, for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." In this telling, Judas isn't the traitor. He's the only disciple who truly understood, the one entrusted with the hardest task of all, handing his teacher over to death, because death was the plan. The betrayal wasn't a betrayal, it was obedience. Mainstream scholars and churches don't accept this text as history, and neither should you, uncritically. But it proves something remarkable. Even 1700 years ago, people were staring at this story and asking the exact question you're asking right now. If the cross had to happen, did someone have to hand him over? The New Testament gives Judas 2 endings, both brutal. Matthew says he hanged himself. Acts describes him falling in a field bought with the blood money, a place Jerusalem came to call Akeldama, the field of blood. Either way, the man died with the question still open: greed, the devil, a broken revolutionary, a secret servant of the plan. 2,000 years later, the debate has never closed.